this war is a real thing to me now, and that the enemy are real beings, real people, and that real angels, God's angels, are also here with us.
One of the strangest aspects of the current UFO research is the widespread emergence of abduction reports. Now, these stories are too bizarre to be accepted, and yet they're too consistent to ignore. There are actually conferences at MIT and elsewhere on the subject of what to do about these things. People are not only citing UFOs, they are apparently being abducted by them. And what's strange about these reports is they virtually always involve some kind of intrusive medical examination that always seems to have something to do with the reproductive system. And there are experts, such as Dr. John Mack at Harvard, who's the head of psychiatry there. He's come out publicly and indicated that he personally is convinced that these things are alien beings have an agenda to reproduce hybrids. And this, of course, shocked the psychiatric world because he's quite a prominent, well-credentialed expert. So something's going on, and of course it's not free of controversy. Many people have different views, but what we put forth is the possibility that this may very well be a fulfillment of prophecy that Jesus hinted at when he warned us about these things.
People all over the world have the same experiences in precisely the same details, and so it's anybody and everybody. There isn't anybody who is predisposed to being abducted. The only thing is that their mother or their father must have been an abductee. We conducted a poll in 1991 of 6,000 randomly selected adults in the United States from all sections of the country, from all walks of life, done through the Roper organization. Not asking people necessarily whether they've been abducted or not, because people don't remember what's happened to them. We'll ask them questions that abductees answer affirmatively in very high percentages. The numbers were so high that we knew that politically we could not come forward with them. They were just insane. So we became extremely conservative with this poll. And we decided that we would only accept people who answered affirmatively to the 5 highest indicator questions of whether they've had abduction experiences, although any question answering affirmatively to could have meant that they were an abductee. Then we decided we would only count those people who answered yes to the 5 higher indicated questions if they answered yes to 4 or all 5 of them. It was possible, in other words, to answer affirmatively to 7 questions out of the 10 and be dropped from the poll. Maybe even 8 questions and be dropped from the poll. When we did that, we got it down to 2% of the American people. The numbers are probably going to hold constant when everything is leveled out around the world. It's somewhere between 2 and 5%, and probably closer to 5 or 6% actually. I've done about 900 hypnotic regressions. I've cataloged 650 of them or so. They will tell me something like, in 1996 I was with my friend, we looked up and we saw this UFO coming down towards us, and you know, the next thing we knew we were both running, and it was 2 hours later. We then begin to look into these events through hypnosis. Hypnosis works for reasons that we don't understand. We know through recent studies that there are brainwave changes, that there are changes in the brain. These changes in the brain unlock short-term memory and access to long-term memory, where people can remember these things for the first time. We're looking at this primarily from a neurological point of view in terms of remembering, and from an experiential point of view in terms of remembering what happened.
During the night, I woke up from my sleep to a sound, and I looked towards my sliding door. I saw this object hovering above the tree line, taking up a great part of my view. It had a round part that was twirling constantly and flashing different lights. The white light on the top, the colored lights around, and a dark metallic material. I said, Hetty, this is something like the lifesaver colors. I fixed it in my mind. I ran, got my binocular and was watching through that. I don't know how long I was looking at it before eventually it started drifting above the treetops to the left of my view. I wasn't dressed, so I just watched until it disappeared from my view. I don't know how long, how many days, maybe even a week or so went by. And I heard something fall on the floor. And I went over and picked it up, and I'm looking, my binocular. What's my binocular doing here? This is not where I keep it. And then, click, that was the second when everything came back.
They know odd things have been happening. They don't remember what's happened to them, but they know odd things have been happening to them, let's just say. And they have a route that they go to. The first route would be to go to a therapist, say, Doc, what's wrong with me? I wake up in the middle of the night and there's beings standing around my bed, let's just say, and my first impulse is to go right to sleep, which they know is unusual, because you'd think if somebody was standing on your bed, there'd be an adrenaline rush, the likes of which you've never had before in your life, and you would not go to sleep. And of course they don't go to sleep. They think they did, but they don't. People say, I'm taken out of my room and I'm going and I'm going to the window, and they're taking me right to the window into the UFO. They're floating up. And the first time I heard this, I'd say, wait a minute now. You're walking towards the window, there are these beings with you, you can't run, you can't scream, you're rendered passive. You get to the window. Do you open the window? They say no, they say, I think I'm floating right through the closed window. And they'll say to me, does anybody else ever report that? Not knowing that everybody reports that, everybody. Now if this were psychological, they say, yeah, I opened the window. Because it makes their story sound natural, normal, logical. Why wouldn't they open the window? There's no big deal in opening a window. Of course they open the window. We just don't get that. And they know that it sounds crazy to say that they're floating through the window. They say, I can see people standing there, even sort of looking in my direction. But it's obvious that they're not shrieking in horror and running. They're just idly walking the dog or whatever it is. For that part of the abduction sequence, they are rendered unseeable to maintain the secrecy of this phenomenon. And it's something we can't get away from. It's embarrassing. Well, they're invisible, let's just say. Of course, they're going through a solid object, glass, or the wall sometimes, or through the ceiling sometimes. So you're looking, I think, at advanced technology.
Ahí van. 3, 4, 5, 6. Son 6. Abajo o arriba o arriba. Medio, ahí van 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, son 8. Qué barbaridad, ¿eh? Ahí se van a ver bien. Y van a una velocidad, pero 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 en la pantalla. Síguelo, no lo cierres. ¿Están a la misma altura, Telles? Afirmativo. Poquito, arriba.
When people are abducted, they're taken on board a UFO. Their clothes are removed, they're placed on a table, and they have 3